Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to watercolor your own sketch. So as you can see here, I'm gonna get some water and then and then like um with the amount of water, before I go further, with the amount of water, I'm taking like a handful of water because this first layer is gonna be a very like clear, it's gonna be like a very clear cut layer. And what I mean by that is that this layer is going to be very transparent because this is the underlayer of the skin. It's not like the major layer. It's more of like the underlaying of the skin. And as you can see here, I'm just dabbing my brush and I'm just getting some more and more water and more paint. And as I'm getting more paint and water, I'm making sure that the watercolor itself becomes a little bit more lighter. And with the type of watercolor, not type, I mean the color of the watercolor I'm using, you can use any color you want. It doesn't have to be like a set color for your picture. And as long as for the first layer you're getting a lot of water and enough watercolor, and just mixing in some lighter tones to make the underlaying layer a bit more lighter. So as you can see, I'm trying to dig my way through to get some white, but I devoured the white color. Alright, so I've managed to get a lighter layer of the color, and what you want to do is that you want to gently move around, like gently and very vastly around the face. So as you're doing that, you can notice that you are leaving bits of white on the face, and when you leave bits of white, that is where the highlights of the face would be. So instead of actually getting white paint and actually using that as the highlights, you are leaving gaps of the image by ignoring some of the white spaces and areas. So once you have put the more transparent layers on top of the image, you would get that same color, but you'll make it like a little bit darker, but it will still add white to add in the more darker areas of the face, so like the nose and like the eyelids. I would normally use a smaller brush for this, but since that will take a bit of time to do, I would go ahead and use like a bigger brush for these areas. And with this paint, like I said before, you're not restricted on what color you would use for like different parts of the body. Even you can use for example yellow, then like a mixture of orange to add that kind of contrast, but I like to use the same color for these paintings specifically because it just makes it easier for me to identify darker and lighter areas. So as you can see, once you add in those darker layers on top of like the most isolated areas of the face, such as the eyelids and the nose, I would use that same color and add in just some little random shadows. With the with that color, it would help me to develop like the more denser shadows that I would use for like the different parts of the body. So like for example like the hair as well, but yeah, but then again, with this kind of technique, you would want to actually be mindful to not add in too much water, or otherwise it will become very watery. Or you want to be mindful to not add too much watercolor, or otherwise it will become very contrasted and very bright, and you won't get this kind of effect where it's very watercolor, but more of like, very, how should I put it, very very poppy, like very like pop, like it's not really like subtle, it's more poppy. I don't even know whether that's a word, but yeah. And yeah, it seems like with this, I do have like a decent like color palette of these two colors now. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add in the more darker layers. Alright, so now that we've got those two aspects done, we can now finally move on to the last step, which is to add in that very dark layer, you know, of that same color, and that helps to bring out the outlines of the drawing. So what I mean is that helps to bring out the outlines of the face, of the eyes, of the nose, of the mouth and the neck, and etc., you know. So like, this is my favorite part of the painting, because with this I am able to bring out all of those areas that aren't really recognized in my painting. So like, you know, like I said before, the outside of the face, and you know, the outside of the face, the eyes. And with this, you would want to, like, as I said before, use the same color, but if you want to add in some water with this, then that will be fine. But I would recommend not putting so much water, like I said, or otherwise it'll become very watery, and therefore, you know, that same color will become very, like, it won't even be like a very bright color at that point. It'll be kind of a dull color. But what I would do is that I will put just a little bit of water, then I'll mix it onto the palette again, just to, you know, smoothen it out, and, you know, to see whether this will be like the type of thickness you would want for the painting. So now I've got my desired shade and color, and I'm also using a very fine paintbrush, as this will be very much recommended because, you know, you're able to bring out those sharper outlines. So what I would do is that I will start with the corner of the face, because that's the most prominent outline, and I'm just gonna bring my brush and make it a bit flat. Then as I'm coming down, I'm gonna make it a bit pointy as well, so that, as you can see, you can have that really broad, you know, broad puddle from that darker color. Then you can bring your paintbrush down, and then it become more slimmer. Because if you do like a broader brush throughout, then your painting is gonna, like, you know, like this, since that's not a very good demonstration, but if it's like this, then it's gonna become more broad. Whereas if it was like this, like big to small, then it's gonna become more defined. So from there, I'm gonna grab a little bit of this from my palette, then with some water again, and I'm gonna test it out and see if it's the same kind of thickness, which it is. Then I'm gonna go ahead with the nose. I feel like, in my opinion, the nose is a very hard thing to do, because you have to be very careful, because the nose is the most delicate part of the picture. Good. And as you can see here, I accidentally put a bit too much water. And as you can see, I'm just being very careful with this. And yeah, don't do like me, where you put like a lot of water by mistake, or otherwise you're gonna get these puddles. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but, you know, it's just not really advisable. But also, what you would want to do is that with this corner of the face, you can add in like a little bit of a darker area, because, you know, corner of the where you have the bridge of the nose is obviously always the darkest area of the face. So what I would do is that I would mix in with the same color that I've used, but mix it in with a little bit of a darker white, or a mix of gray, and then I'll put the paintbrush in the water, and then that will become a very dull and watery kind of aspect. And I think that's when you can put a lot of water. So if I grab this here, and if I just do like that, and then I don't know whether you can see, but yep, that's where like the darker area of the face, like not the face, the darker area of the bridge of the nose would be very distinctive. So as you can see, with this darker area of the nose is now prominent. The corner of the face is prominent. Now we're going to bring that in and we're going to define the lips as well. So I'm just going to take that same color that I've mixed in earlier. Then I'm going to go in. And then I'm going to be careful with this. There we go. Oh, that's pretty cute. Yeah. So with that, you would want to again be more very subtle, because you know the lips and the nose are very delicate places of images like this. And you know, I would like where there's like bigger, broader spaces of the body, such as the bottom of the lips and like, you know, the corners, that's where it'll be a bit more broad with the outline. But like considering these are the delicate parts, again, this would be very, you know, risky to actually make it broad, you know. So I'm just gonna get that, and I'm gonna do like this. And the reason why I'm doing like that is because I'm adding like a very distinctive shadow underneath the chin. So, you know, this wouldn't count as the shadow. This would count as the, you know, as the opening area that will guide down to the chin. And then I'll do the same for the neck. So I've added a more of a dense yellow because I felt like the other color wasn't really, you know, bright enough to be cast as a shadow. And then I added this little chin area, which does look like a little mustache, but from a technique that I've learned, you know, that could be quite good if chins are very a bit like pointy and they're more of like face forwarding portraits. I mean, it could be like side forward portraits as well, but you know, with like more of a face forwarding portraits, it'll be more, you know, more recognizable to have this like feature in a way. Alright people, so there you have it. This is the finished product of both of the pictures. I think in my opinion, they look really, they just look subtle to me. It's like I didn't put too much paint or water or anything, only for like the defined areas such as like the details, such as the nose and the eyes and the ears and whatnot. So yep, so if you have some of it on my hand, but you know, this is a painting marker. It's a painting marker specifically, and this is the Posca pen. I've heard that a lot of people have it, but you know, this is my first color that I'm having it, and I should be right, it is like a painting pen. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add some little highlights to the painting. And what that does, like I said before, it really brings out the picture. Like here, you know, it just brings it out, which is really, really nice to see. And considering this color is like a yellow, it complements this color because they are both bright colors. So yeah, as you can see, I am putting the pen on top of like the highlights of like the most prominent spaces of the picture. And sometimes it does go out when it's on really dense areas, so such as like areas that aren't really, you know, areas that are heavily painted on. But I think that looks pretty decent enough. I'm gonna put some on the lips as well to have some little gloss and shine. And you don't have to use a Posca marker for this. You can use, you know, white paint, you can use white acrylic paint, just anything that will bring out the highlights of the image. This is the finished product, and I really hope that you guys find this tutorial very helpful. If you did, please let me know by commenting down the comment section and letting me know if this tutorial really helped you bring out your sketches and really helped you to understand in at least one way of how you can watercolor your sketches. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Whoops. Bye.